Do you worry about it? And are these folks overstating the case? And how do you feel about Eugene Hoskins first? Do you know who he is? Mr. Litkey is a former Catholic chaplain who served in Vietnam, was awarded the Congressional Medal of Honor. In 1968, President Lyndon Baines Johnson gave him the highest decoration that can be bestowed on a human being by the United States of America, having saved, as he did, 20 men under fire in Vietnam. Not long ago, he put his envelope his medal in an envelope and placed it at the base of the Vietnam Memorial, a protest against what he said was America's foreign policy in Nicaragua and other places. George Mizo is in the 44th day of his fast. He was awarded a Purple Heart, which he returned. He's lost 46 pounds. Duncan Murphy is in the 30th day of his fast for life. He was a World War II veteran who took part in the liberation of Bergen-Belsen from the concentration camp. He's lost 25 pounds. Brian Wilson's in the 30th day of his fast. He's an attorney at law and an Air Force veteran who served in Vietnam. He's lost 42 pounds. They say they will die to make their point. They're here with Robert Perry, who's a reporter for the Associated Press, who returned from Nicaragua yesterday. He was in Managua yesterday. How's it going in Managua?
Not too bad.
Charlie Litkey, let's make a couple of points here. First of all, you have received some press attention, but you're not really that good at stories.
Well, I can understand that.
Yeah, we don't care. Not only that, we're a little upset with you. In fact, one of your friends, a person who loves you, is tempted to tell you to go to hell for doing it.
Who's that?
Henderson. Here's a guy who served with you in the seminary in Alabama. And you're going to die? Like we got so many of these activists out here. You know what I mean? We can afford to have you die. That's his point. You're in a country where half the people don't even vote. And as long as it's a private little war. And what makes you so smart? Aren't you, all of you, just a little messianic on this thing? Like, next thing you know, you'll be talking to God in your delirium because you, incidentally, there's a doctor here who says you guys are in the danger zone. You must have headaches.
No.
You must feel like hell.
Never felt better.
You look like hell. What's your story, Charlie Litkey? Give him your best shot here. What are you doing here?
Well, we're all about saving lives in Nicaragua. We're willing to put our lives on the line for that, just as we did in Vietnam. When we went to Vietnam, we thought we were doing the right and just thing, and subsequent to that, we found out it was a lie. I think any Vietnam veteran who realizes that the Gulf of Tonkin incident, for instance, was a pure fabrication, would be incensed about that. I put Vietnam behind me when I left, not like a lot of other veterans and protested right away, but when I went back down to Central America, I saw Vietnam happening all over again, and I saw the lies happening all over again. So that's why I'm doing what I'm doing. I'm on the steps of the Capitol as a proxy for the people in Vietnam who can't be there themselves, and saying what a Nicaraguan woman said to me.
You mean?
Pardon me?
For the people in Nicaragua.
For the people in Nicaragua. Vietnam and Nicaragua, I get them mixed up every once in a while now. But a peasant woman in the hills in Nicaragua said that to me in the middle of the night. Go home and tell your president, and every peasant in Nicaragua knows the name of our president. Says, go home and place your hand on his chest and tell him to stop killing us. So that's what I'm doing.
Are you there? I'm glad you waited. Go ahead.
Yes, I am. Phil, both my husband and I are ex-Vietnam vets, and I'm here to tell you that I think Nicaragua is exactly another Vietnam, and I would not allow my son to fight in it. I would ship him to Canada. I don't want to see it happen again.
Yeah.
Just don't want to see it happen again.
You know what bothers me about this whole Nicaragua thing?
What?
I think there was a word for this when we were a kid. It was chicken. I'd be prouder of my country if it would declare war. Declare war. If this is really a threat to the United States, then have the courage to declare this war. You're the most powerful nation in the world, and we got a bunch of people holding dinners in hotel ballrooms to raise money to buy kits that we drop out of airplanes. This is so chicken, so cowardly.
Let the president and Congress go down there and fight. We are not interested in it. Two-thirds majority of the people aren't.
Let them kill the children and the mothers and the fathers.
Well, but I can't believe this whole audience is in sympathy with what you're doing. Come on. Where were you when you voted for this administration? I know you're here. You got to be. Everybody here agrees with these folks here. Or are you like a lot of other Americans who don't want to talk about this? Wait a minute. I know we got a taxpayer out here. Wait a minute. What?
When men cease to fight for freedom, freedom is doomed. If you want to be free, you have to fight for it. And these men, what happened to Hitler? How did he get his start, and who stopped him?
So
is anybody starving themselves to stop him?
So we got to stop communism in El Salvador, in Nicaragua.
What do we do?
Yeah. Why don't we have the courage? What happened?
Because
World War II. You remember that?
People don't want to sacrifice.
We're getting wimpy.
We are.
So we're going to be taken over anyway. What the hell's $100 million?
I don't know if you are. If these men think that way, we will be taken over, in my opinion.
These men went off to war believing what you are stating. And it's the 17 and 18-year-old boys who no longer will do it, for the most part.
I disagree.
What do you disagree about?
I feel that the young people will go out there if they have to fight for the country. Our country is good to the young people, and we should fight for it. The ones that didn't fight before, I think the country went down. I feel the country
Shouldn't we close? You know we have an embassy in Managua. You knew that. We have an embassy in a country that we're going to knock off. Doesn't that sound a little screwy to you?
I feel we should fight for our country here and fight so that they don't come into this country. Let's do the fighting down there and get it over with instead of pussyfooting around now.
What's the threat? Who makes that come into this country? Those pregnant women that are killed down there? Those old men that are killed down there?
I would just like to ask you gentlemen, how is your cause going to remain effective if you're dead?
We will have personally made a statement, and it's already been entered in the congressional record. If nothing else happens as a result of this, we want the American government to know that there are at least 4 Americans who care enough about what's being done in their name to make a sacrifice for it. We've done it for war, and if I can't do it, we can't do it for peace, and my life has no meaning.
Yeah, and during the Vietnam era, I was very much against the war, and I protested and did all that. And I worked for George McGovern. And 1984, I voted for Ronald Reagan. One of the reasons was that nobody fasted for the people of Cambodia, the 2 or 3 million who died under Pol Pot, or the Chinese people who were expelled from Vietnam during the bloodbath after the capture of South Vietnam by the North. I think this is extremely one-sided. It's an emotional blackmail attempt, really, against the people of the country.
So your position then regarding, what do you think our foreign policy should be in Nicaragua?
I think we should protect our own interests.
How do you do that?
Well, if the sentiment isn't there to support the war, and it'll be worked out on the Hill. I don't believe this is a secret war.
If the sentiment isn't there, we can presume the system will work. Then the Hill is not going to approve it. Those guys weren't born yesterday. They want to go back to the Hill. They want to get reelected. So they're going to do what their constituents want them to do.
That's right. Yeah.
What do you think the constituents will?
That's hard to say.
You're willing to send, I don't know if you're married, Matt? Would you send a loved one to Nicaragua to fight for freedom?
I wouldn't send anybody to do anything. They have to make that decision themselves.
Well, but you think the president should? You're either an American or you're not. And if you don't have an opinion on this, then we don't deserve to survive, because it's a very important issue. Yeah, and we have supposedly a free press, so we're supposed to be informed, so you can't walk down both sides of the street on this one. Come on, let's hear from you.
Well, I don't want to give you a long speech like you said, but I think there's a contest here between individual rights and collective action.
You want to go or don't you? You want to have a war or not?
The last thing I want. Believe me, it's the last thing I want. or let's say the second to the last thing I want. The last thing I want is the eradication of personal liberties throughout the world. And if Nicaragua is the place to make the stand, then I'm for it. I have to tell you the truth, I am for it.
People know that 62% of the Nicaraguan people voted for the government they have. Where is democracy? Are we allowing democracy to them? What right do we have to go in and overthrow an elected government? I was down there, and the people really want what the government they have. They want to read, they want to have food, and this is what's happening. There's a reform in this one.
Are you there? I'm glad you waited.
Yes.
Go ahead.
I'd like to take issue, if I may, with the statement you made earlier about half the people in the country not voting.
Yeah.
The point I'd like to make is, what good does it do to vote anyway? Because the government doesn't listen to you. You elect your officials.
Well, then you have given up on America. That's okay.
No. I've given up on elected officials.
Well,
that's what they want. Mr. Reagan, if you be kind enough to listen to me, Mr. Reagan does what he wants to do. People in this country don't want no wars. They turn away from it, and yet he's not listening.
You're not listening to me. You cannot complain if you think voting does no good. Then, to me, the people who complain the most are the people who never stuff an envelope, never work for a candidate, never...
Sir, I served during the Korean conflict, which was called a police action. A lot of guys lost their lives.
How do you feel about what these folks are doing?
Well, I don't go along with it, but by the same token, I understand what they're doing.
How does reporter Perry feel about all this? Let's get you in here. You just got back from Managua.
That's correct.
First of all, the CIA absolutely is connected to this overflight and a lot of other things going on in Nicaragua. You don't deny that.
They've been connected to the Nicaragua situation from the beginning, that's right.
And in fact, there is at least an indirect connection between Donald Gregg, the National Security Advisor to the Vice President of the United States, and his pal, what's his name, Felix Rodriguez.
Max Gomez.
Max Gomez, a.k.a. So we've got, and Max Gomez has seen the Vice President of the United States 3 times, at least twice in his own office.
Correct.
During which conferences the Vice President says Nicaragua was not discussed. True. Mm-hmm. So our military action in Vietnam is covert, and it's a bank shot. It's off a private air
in Nicaragua?
And often in other parts of Central America as well.
Mm-hmm.
How do you feel about this? What's your best read on this?
Well, the war in Nicaragua has been a covert war from the beginning. It was run by the CIA from the start, and it has, in a sense, remained covert even after Congress cut off the aid to the Contra. The difference has been that, as we've reported, that the control of it shifted from the CIA more to the White House and the National Security Council. And outside intermediaries, including people like General Singlab and others, have been used to control the war.
The $100 million approved for Nicaragua by the House has what strings attached to it?
In terms of the CIA
how can
involvement?
it be used?
It can be used for $70 million worth of it for military aid. It also strikes the restraints that have been placed on the CIA.
The plane that was shot down in Nicaragua took off from Ilopango, is that so?
Yes.
Ilopango is a United States Air Force base on the outskirts of San Salvador.
No, it's a Salvadoran military airport.
I see. But you can't get in without a pass.
It's a controlled airport, that's correct.
And there are American personnel at this military installation.
Yes, there have been.
So it'd be more accurate to call Ilopango a joint operation of the El Salvadoran military and the United States military.
Well, as you know, the United States has been deeply involved in supporting the Salvadoran government.
So if the plane that was shot down over Nicaragua took off from Ilopango, you know that somebody at a gate had to give the pass, which was approved by American authorities for these people who were in the plane even to take off in it.
Well, it's a fair assumption that the United States was aware of this, yeah.
Well, what do they say in the press bar when those guys get together in Managua? I mean, really, what is the read here? Is this thing going to work? And and who's being killed? And what, are we going to knock off the Sandinistas in Nicaragua?
I think the general impression you get from not just reporters, but from people who follow this on all sides, is that the Sandinista government has not been significantly threatened by the Contra. That it appears unlikely that in the foreseeable future they will be.
It sure is, and it's not, if they are, it's not going to be $100 million that's going to do it.
The administration acknowledges that it would take much more than $100 million to do the job. That's correct.
So $100 million, it is not unreasonable to suggest, which has already been approved by the Congress. Incidentally, does it have to go to the Senate?
No, it was approved by both the Senate and the House, but it is being held up pending the continuing resolution, which is the omnibus spending bill that Congress is about to act on.
So it is not unreasonable to conclude that, assuming the final green light for the $100 million, this is just the beginning of the down payment that will continue ad infinitum to fight the communist menace in Nicaragua. True?
Well, I'm not sure I'd say forever, but it is certainly true that people in the administration say it will take a lot more than $100 million to do the job.
When you file for AP, do you have any trouble getting your stories published? I don't mean political trouble, but I mean in terms of interest. Where does your copy usually wind up?
I think there's a lot of interest in this issue among the American people.
You do?
Yeah.
I don't see it. Look how thrilled these folks are to be here today. I don't see it.
I don't either, Phil.
I think we're just moseying along, and then when they call your son, then you'll have something else.
One of the reasons we're fasting.
Huh?
One of the reasons we're fasting is to make it clear to the American people what the bottom line of our policy in Nicaragua is. People are suffering, they're dying, and they're being maimed. And they've got to understand that this is what happens to people when we send military supplies and guns to kill people.
Are you there? I'm glad you waited.
Yes, Phil. I respect these gentlemen for what they're doing and being champions for such a cause, but how is it they can care so little for their own families who must love them, that are watching them kill themselves?
I wonder that, too.
If anyone who's ever lost a brother or a father or a son to an illness or an accident, how can they do this to their own families?
Mr. Murphy, World War II vet, now in his 30th day of his fast, has lost 25 pounds, responds thus.
I spent months in Belsen concentration camp working with the survivors of the Nazi atrocities. I heard all their stories. 40 years later, I went down to Nicaragua, and I heard the same stories from victims of the Contras, who are attacking women and children, raping nuns, torturing, burning alive, skinning alive, with our tax dollars. And I will not have it. I'm willing to die for those beautiful, wonderful people who gave me the most gracious hospitality everywhere I went.
There's one other very important point that should not go unmentioned. United States personnel flying over Nicaraguan airspace or dropping is against the law. We should also be reminded that the World Court has condemned the United States for its activity in Nicaragua. Does that bother you? Which courts do you want to turn your back on and are not important to you?
It doesn't make any difference in the United States anymore until they're drafting and until young Americans are dying by the sport. I think one of the TV turned it around as far as Vietnam was concerned.
Charlie Lipke and his colleagues here think they can stop this before that kind of mayhem.
It's an admirable point, but it isn't going to make any difference until
not be moved.
We can spend dollars and it doesn't affect us. We blow dollars here, there, and everywhere all around the world on a very regular basis. And until lives are actually being lost and the impact of TV, they're covering it.
But here's what I don't get. We're now, what are we, we're 7 weeks, no, we're less than that. We're 3 weeks in advance of the election. And this is not an issue. This is not an issue. If you're running for Congress, don't touch Nicaragua. Just let it be. You don't have to take any chance of offending, so don't say anything.
What can we do to help you? You're going to extremes. What can the Americans do?
There's thousands of letters coming in, and the Congress people tell us that their phones are ringing off the hook on this issue. They tell us in the back rooms that this is what they're talking about. Tip O'Neill personally called us into his office. Congress is concerned. They come to the steps and they talk to us. And by the thousands, the people of the United States are standing up and they're saying we will not use our tax dollars anymore. When 2/3 of us say no to this, you better listen to us at election time.
Are you there? I'm glad you waited. Go ahead.
I
death.
Hold on a minute. Yes, I can hear you now. Go ahead.
How far will all these men go?
What do you think?
What do I think?
Yeah.
I don't think they'll go to death. I mean, nobody in their right mind would do that.
We're killing people every day. They gave us medals for not being in our right mind in Vietnam.
Right on.
For killing people. For killing people, that's right. I have a chest full of medals for killing people. Now when I try and save somebody's life, we're considered whacked up.
So is this your way of getting back what you did? Is this your way of saying, okay, what I did was wrong, so this way of righting yourself?
What I'm doing is my way of hopefully seeing that it never happens again.
Over here.
I understand, I admire very much that you're trying to protect American lives, but like you said,
Nicaraguan lives.
How are you protecting Nicaraguan lives? You're protesting that we get involved in this, but
Stop the
I'd rather
killing.
see you use your energies towards doing something about stopping the war in Nicaragua. I mean, maybe that's too idealistic. I don't know.
We've done everything else.
I'm not sure they'd be here if they weren't dying. I mean, it's a great story. Look at these guys. We're watching them kind of go down into the big abyss of, this is ghoulish, but we really are fascinated.
Why is it so ghoulish when somebody wants to give up their life out of love for other people? I don't understand that. The question I ask is not why we are doing what we are doing, but why are more people not willing to put their lives on the line for truth, for love, and compassion of our fellow human beings? As far as I'm concerned, I come out of the New Testament background. This is what I'm encouraged to do as a Christian, to lay down my life for my fellow man in love.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what I'm trying to do. And why
to
can't
those
we do that?
And to those who would suggest that there's a shade of messianic energy in what you say.
Well, so what?
That's a good example.
Huh?
So
That's
what?
a good example.
Isn't this what we're encouraged to do?
Nicaraguans,
To follow
it's ghoulish to be slaughtering the
Christians?
people of Nicaragua.
We do not have a messianic complex. We do not want to commit suicide. We have all been through far too much and have survived far too much to want to die at this stage in our lives. But we believe in what we're doing. We feel that our priorities are so screwed up that we can only think of the killing in terms of American lives. As we're speaking right now, women and children in Nicaragua are being killed in our name. The Contras are not attacking the government in Nicaragua. They're killing pregnant women and old men. And one of the things that we would like people to do is to get informed. In fact, in those elections, the Communist Party got less than 2% of the vote. The United States is not afraid of Nicaragua militarily. They're afraid of the People's Revolution that's taking place from 9 different parties and many different forms of religion.
Are you there? I'm glad you waited.
Yes, I wanted to let these people know I admire these men that go and fight for freedom, but it's also one-sided. I was born in a communist country. Do you think that when they say they go there and talk to the people, do you think that the people that disagree with them will be able to come forward and say what they really think?
No, that's possibly not. And we should say that La Prensa has been closed, hardly a good sign. Nevertheless, may we ask what you think we should do? You're on the record as being concerned about communist expansion. What, as an American citizen, which I presume you are, do you want your government to do about Nicaragua?
Well, I wish that they would just go there and finish it and not make it last over.
Finish it. Now, what does finish it mean?
Well, declare war if we have to. I'm 33 and my husband was born in the United States, and he's willing. I agree with the man in the audience. You have to fight for freedom.
Where were you born?
I was born in Cuba, and people don't know. They can tell you they know. Americans don't know what it's like to fight for freedom when you're in the United States and you have that freedom and you take it for granted.
I'll give you. Are you calling from Miami? Just seriously?
No, I'm calling from Ohio.
Let me give you an opportunity. I must break. I do thank you for your call.
Thank you.
And we'll be back in just a minute.
go to a lot of trouble
I don't know how you do it, Bob.
for a spaghetti sauce with fresh from the garden taste. That's why we made Ragu Chunky Garden-Style Spaghetti Sauce, the chunkiest, freshest tasting sauce we've ever put in a jar, bursting with the garden fresh taste of chunky tomatoes, tender mushrooms, sweet onions, crunchy green peppers.
I don't know how you do it, Vinny.
Ragu Chunky Garden Style, bursting with fresh from the garden taste.
You know, being something of a magician, I like to play little tricks. That's why my friends always figure I'm pulling a fast one, even when I'm not. Like when I make some Maxwell House instant decaffeinated after dinner, my friends will say, "That's decaffeinated? Instant decaffeinated?" They're amazed at how good it tastes. They think I'm pulling their leg. Heck no. I'm picking their pocket. Anybody see it? My wallet. Have you seen my wallet, Harry?
Ed Shell thinks you'll believe anything just because he puts it on television. The fact is, Alan Cranston sponsored or voted for 23 major anti-drug bills, including the National Narcotics Act, the Controlled Substances Act, the Emergency Crack Control Act, the Designer Drug Enforcement Act. By the way, there's one thing Shao didn't tell you. In 1985, Shao voted to cut funds for the Drug Enforcement Administration. That's right, Shao voted against drug enforcement funds. Chicago. Chicago. It's a wonderful town, and it'll be even more wonderful flying there in the comfort of an Air Cal seat. Only Air Cal flies you there nonstop from Orange County at a low $99 each way. Only $99 nonstop, and only on Air Cal. Air Cal, we make flying easy.
These American citizens are actually going to say how they feel about this, putting to the lie my observation that we don't care.
Yes. All I ever heard about Vietnam was that the public was never informed about what was going on. And these gentlemen are saying that we need to inform the public. Well, you're our informers, and Jed, you're no good. You have to tell the public what's going on, and you have to put that to a positive power. You can't leave us on the
Well, I think that there's a whole other issue involved in this. Vietnam had a lot to do with economics and finances and big business. And I think that's what's missing in the American people's knowledge of this issue. I think that there's an extra component of it that we don't know about.
You mean somebody's getting wealthy by this?
There has to be money in it. If Americans are doing it, there has to be money in it.
Is that really what's happening to our country?
I think so.
Ashamed of that?
But that's what the
We're
Republicans...
just greedy. We run on money, and we've lost our moral course here.
But I'm even a Republican, and I think, and that's what the Republicans stood for, making America great, making America have more money. And I think that's a big issue involved in here.
Yes, ma'am.
I think that Americans, including this audience, are very afraid of being burned again. We are afraid that if we support the government, the present government, elected, as she said, by 62% of the people, that when they get in, when they stay in other words, if we don't aid the Contras and the Sandinistas stay in, that we will be burned and we will find out that it's another communist takeover.
So what is your opinion?
Well, I really have a question.
I'd rather know how you feel.
No,
You don't know how you feel?
I feel
Phil,
that...
I know how I
just
feel.
a minute. I will make a comment. I feel that I am not well informed, particularly since there's an AP reporter who has been there and can tell me whether the country is going communist and the Sandinistas are communist. Are we going to be burned again the way we were in Vietnam and Cuba?
You don't know.
Three of us were in Nicaragua, too.
Hold on.
I'm incredulous that after what we learned in Vietnam or whatever, the United States is still, do we really believe in the domino theory? Do we think that all of Central America is going to fall right up to our doorstep? I can't believe we still think that. And secondly, why don't we start backing a popular government somewhere? Get in with them. Why do we have to? I can't believe that ipso facto, because we think they're communist aligned, we can't be in any kind of relationship with the Sandinistas.
I also think we are so arrogant. What makes us think that we have the only country in the world that can be free? What makes us think we are the only people in the world for making decisions for ourselves? and that the whole world has to be like us.
We'll be back in just a moment.
The Optometric Center of Los Angeles offers complete eye and vision care at minimum cost. Call 213-234-9137.
Now, I know we did a lot of running around today, but I want the best for us, like this chicken. You know why I look for a certain brand? Because they're not all the same. We want California chicken, the freshest kind, and we don't want preservatives. That's why I insisted on buying Zaki Farms chicken. It's pure and natural, and that's important for both of us.
Pure and natural chicken from the Zaki family to yours.
Remember the giggles and jiggles that Charlie's Angels gave us? Sure you do, and so does this week's People. People celebrate people. The Angels reminisce gently and not so gently about the series and each other. Then, People tells why Ingrid Bergman's daughter starred in the R-rated Blue Velvet, and how Paul Hogan went from Down Under to Top Banana in Crocodile Dundee, and much more. Week after week, People celebrates people. This week, Charlie's Angels, then and now.
Hi. What? The all-natural girl having waffles?
Yeah.
I thought you only ate things that were good for you, like sprouts and yogurt. These are good for me. Eggo Nutri-Grain waffles. Raisin. Delicious. And bran? Nutritious.
Eggo Nutri-Grain waffles, now with raisin and bran.
No preservatives, no sugar added. These are good for you. Hey, let go of my Eggo. You know it's good for you. I do. A fresh taste.
A whole new flavor.
Apple cinnamon in the middle. Kellogg's Apple
Cinnamon.
Swing. Real apple in the middle. Kellogg's Apple Cinnamon Swing. The sweet will catch you unaware. It's so fresh. Real apple. Wrapping all week.
A wholesome little bundle of taste complete.
With apple cinnamon in the middle. Kellogg's Apple Cinnamon Swing. Real apple in the middle. Fresh beyond compare. Kellogg's Apple Cinnamon Swing.
I'm glad you waited. Go ahead.
Yeah, Phil?
Yeah.
I'm calling from Florida. We're only about, our southernmost tip is only about 90 miles away from Cuba.
Right.
How can you people be so naive to think that the communist nations are not going to keep expanding and keep...
Right. So what should we do?
We should do something about it now.
What is something?
Wait till it comes to our border.
What's something?
Do what we're doing, going down there and trying to...
Well, but what? You want to do it with a bunch of private people, picked up people? Why don't we make this organized and do it right?
We should do it the right way. You're correct.
Right. So we should bomb Havana first, or what?
No. That's a little bit too late. We got to deal with that now. We should deal with something that's not already...
Well, what do you want to do in Nicaragua? Do you want to bomb Managua?
No, I didn't say that. I'm not for going down there and leveling the country.
What kind of war do you want?
I want something organized, like what you're saying, going down there and just saying, "Let's go do it."
Sort of like Vietnam. Let's go do it.
No. We didn't. We were over there playing around. That was a game over there. This is not a game.
Were you there?
Did you want to make what point, please?
I would like, for a point of information, and addressing what that woman was saying about interfering in other people's business, and the topic of people being afraid of the communism. If you look at the history of what happened, if in fact in 1984, when the Contra proposal was initiated by the Nicaraguan people, had we in fact supported it at that time, since then, they would not have had to get $360 million in aid from the USSR and from Cuba. And we're putting them in the corner of having to accept communist aid, just as we did with Ho Chi Minh in 1945. We're putting them in that position.
May I acknowledge, General, you are Mrs. Liskey. Well, I'm lucky. I hit the right person. You want to stand up for a second? This is Charlie Litkey's wife. I just don't see you standing there while your husband died.
Well, in the beginning, it just sounded like a thing I couldn't face. But in time, I've come to believe in the message these gentlemen are offering us as something loving and as something coming, offering us a challenge. They offered me a challenge to get involved more deeply and to make a difference, to work out a way of Contra, a way of love. And I hope I can take the challenge with them.
National Public Radio will do the obituary. He'll get about a minute, maybe a minute. I might be able to get him a minute and 15 on the evening news. And that'll be the end of your husband. Legacy, memory, effectiveness, and he won't be here when the crunch begins. It's a suicidal, literally a suicidal action that doesn't make a dent in the goal that he's trying to achieve.
Not really, because they've asked us to respond, and they've asked me to do something. They're asking you to do something. They're asking this audience. So to get informed and to take an opinion, to take a stand. And I think they're asking us to do something I really want to do, which is be more of an American citizen, to be more true to my country. And I think there's a chance that they may have put the call out at the right time.
Think of him. You must think about him every time you eat.
I do. I don't eat as much these days.
Let me just one more time. We have a number of people here who are in support of you, all of whom want in this thing, and nothing will please. Someday I'll have a program with no commercial, and we'll be able to get everybody in. Please let me acknowledge a famous face. Here is Martin Sheen, the actor, who's been at the center of this effort for a long time. So say what you want about the Screen Actors Guild and AFTRA and all the other folks in the entertainment industry. Some of us do stand up and say what they mean. Would you give me just a moment, Marty? What moves your contribution to this?
Well, these men have earned the long-promised blessing from the Sermon on the Mount. Blessed are they who hunger and thirst for justice. That's number one. I was in Nicaragua in December of '84. I met with the mothers of the heroes and martyrs as well, and I came back having made the same promise that I would try to get my North American brothers and sisters to stop killing my Nicaraguan brothers and sisters.
Does the failing of the Sandinista regime bother you? The closing of La Prensa, the high-handed treatment of the Catholic Church in Nicaragua? These guys really do look like a bunch of people trying to impose an Eastern notion of government on a Catholic nation.
Well, I'm a Catholic myself. I went to Mass in Nicaragua in a ghetto church. There are really two churches in Nicaragua. There's a church of the poor and there's a church of the wealthy, same as in America and most of the other Western countries. The church is with the people.
And the church is at odds. That church is at odds with the Sandinistas.
Well, the certain elements of the church are at odds, but they're not the majority of the people. Some of its greatest
all I'm trying to say is, you know, this looks to me, they could have picked a better revolution to starve for. That seems to be some of the reluctant conclusions drawn by people who vigorously oppose United States military involvement in Israel.
Well, I don't know about that.
All those sunglasses, Mrs. Daniel Ortega's wife, Rosario, comes in and buys designer sunglasses. Nice PR move from the revolution.
Well, I hadn't heard that, frankly. Let me say, it boils down to people, to feeling what other people are feeling. I came back and asked my president, and I asked the same question of anybody that supports my president's policy in Nicaragua, and that is, do you, one-on-one, at point-blank range, have the courage to blow the head off a 12-year-old Nicaraguan girl because she's Sandinistan or communist or Nicaraguan? And if not, how can you ask someone to do it in your name, or in the name of the American people, or in the name of God? That's the question. That's what these guys are.
And we'll be back in just a moment.
Feast your eyes on new Bunt Brand pineapple cream cake.
You caught my eye, you look so fine. How I want you to be mine, all mine. You put me in a spinning groove. I've got a passion for you.
Lose yourself in the embrace of creamy filling and tangy pineapple topping, only in a Bunt Brand cake mix.
I've got a passion for you.
Pillsbury, desserts with a passion.
Changes in Social Security laws now make it easier for the disabled to work without losing their checks. Call 1-800-252-9311 for a copy of this pamphlet.
If you think all apple pies are basically the same, look again. You see something special? That's a Mrs. Smith's natural juice pie. You can tell by the crust, so big and bumpy all over. But that's just the beginning. Wait till you get a peek at all those firm, warm apples baked in their own natural juice. That's not just pie. That's Mrs. Smith's natural juice pie. It's in a class by itself.
Now that Gemco food departments are closing, Lucky would like all Gemco food shoppers to know Lucky has lowered food prices to what Gemco's were on the items you buy most. And you'll find the same quality brands you've relied on for years, like Lady Lee and Harvest Day. Lucky will even give you $1 off your total grocery purchase when you turn in your Gemco card. The tradition of low Gemco food prices, to be continued at Lucky.
Of these best-selling supplements, Centrum has more nutrients. 4 more than Parabran M, 9 more than Myadin, 13 more than Within, 15 more than One-A-Day Essential. Centrum outnumbers them all. And Centrum has calcium. Some don't. Centrum, more complete than the others, from A to Z. And for children, there's Centrum Junior, more complete than any leading children's chewable vitamin.
The Channel 4 News at 4 is coming up next on Kirstie Weil. Today, bombs found at the Van Nuys Police Department. The entire courthouse had to be evacuated. The ACLU will take on the fight of the 5-year-old AIDS victim who was thrown out of kindergarten. And the immigration bill shocks everyone by sailing through conference. We'll have details on that story and all the day's news when John and I see you at 4.
Victoria.
What? They finally found a substitute for the sweet roll.
Nigger grains, almond raisins.
What is this, nuts and twigs?
Try almonds, raisins, and these great flakes made with brown rice.
But there's no sugar added. Irv, you're going to love the taste, even though it's healthy. Hey, don't you have a story to write? How's this? Man eats healthy food and lives.
The amazing taste of Nutri-Grain's almond raisins. It's new. According to official voting records of the U.S. Senate, Alan Cranston believes that if a terrorist kills an American citizen in a hijacking, if someone commits murder, treason, or kidnapping, if innocent victims die in a bombing, the killer should not get the death penalty. Alan Cranston consistently opposes the death penalty for the most vicious crimes. Maybe that's why he doesn't oppose Rose Byrne. Southland weather with Fritz Coleman on the Channel 4 News.
This is from a physician to me. I've asked them to drink water continuously while under the hot lights of your studio. Dehydration causes weakness, dizziness, fainting spells, muscle cramps, stomach pains, mouth dryness, and in some people, severe hunger pains. These veterans have all experienced these symptoms. More serious symptoms of apathy, prostration, weakness causing the inability to drink come late in the fast and are due to slow starvation. Starvation occurs because the body needs calories to live, and calories are supplied by the fat, protein, and sugar we eat. These veterans are in the danger zone, according to this physician. They are losing about 1 pound per day.
I'd like to know if any of you could be very specific about exactly what would have to happen for you to discontinue your fast.
Stop the killing in Nicaragua. Stop the Contra aid. The continuing resolution has not been signed by the President.
We can all say I want
Would
peace
you
in the
call
world.
Senator Lugar and Representative O'Neill today and ask them to take out the $100 million from the continuing resolution?
Well, I believe that these men do have an effect because they are here on the show, and they are raising my consciousness, and I'm sure that this reaches millions of people.
It seems that we don't learn from history at all. Instead of taking that $100 million and always having a military solution, I think we'd be more effective if we take the $100 million and use it to help the people improve their standard of living. Now that they have the media attention and are getting some support, wouldn't it make more sense to cut your fast short and live long and see this?
Will you join us in the escalation of a protest movement in the United States? If the movement escalates its protest,
You'll
we
give up
would
the
love
fast
to
if
come off
what?
the fast.
If the movement is in place to stop the killing in
An
Nicaragua.
escalation of protest among you, the people.
That's bottom line.
I think one of the reasons people say we don't know enough about it is the fact that we've lost confidence in the information that the government gives out.
Right.
We've heard so many...
It's a lie. That's a cop-out.
I was lied to in
No,
World
you
War
can't
II.
say, you see, the government tells us lies, that's why I'm dumb. I just don't think that works.
Well, there's a plethora of books out there now. And we're supposed to be one of the most literate nations in the world.
I think being involved with some of us means war, and to those of us who've gone through World War II and the Vietnamese War, and if we have our I have a son at home, and I don't want him going, having to go to war.
We're at war with Nicaragua.
I have 4 boys at home, and I for sure wouldn't want them to go and fight. We're raising them in a Christian home, and we teach them not to hurt each other. How can we send them there and ask them to kill innocent little children?
Yes, sir. You are with the contingent which is close to and supportive of these facts.
Yes. Why does it have to mean war? Why does it mean blowing people away? Why does it mean going down there and finishing them? Why can't we do something to help them?
We're going to change lives, if that's life.
And there is an organization in place there now, Witness for Peace. There are 40 people there all the time bringing out the truth, telling about Contra attacks and what is happening, and there are over 2,000 have gone down to see for ourselves.
In the midst of the Contra debate, a Southern Democrat stood up and said, I urge my colleagues to vote with me, not because of any threat to this nation's security or not because anything the Sandinistas are doing, but he said because he didn't want to go to the polls in November and be called soft on communism. That's the moral base.
These 4 men went to Nicaragua because they weren't getting answers to their questions. Many of us have gone to Nicaragua because we weren't getting answers to our questions. And nobody can tell me that this fast is not effective, whether you agree with it or not, because I'm in the Veterans for Peace office every day and the phone doesn't stop ringing.
I'm impressed with the male contingent here. That's normally we expect to see women in peace movements, but not.
We're veterans, and percentage-wise, I think there are an appropriate number of females represented.
Yeah, they say that we should be fighting for our country, and if it comes to a war, well, I think these 4 gentlemen really are fighting for their country, and they're fighting right on the front lines and
for
keeping
liberty
us
and justice for all.
Yeah.
I have a question that I'd like to ask the American people of this country. In light of all this disinformation that's coming out about this plane that got shot down, and a lot of clouding in there, we've got this money about to come out for Contra aid. Why don't the American people demand this thing to be put on hold until we see the truth?
Yes.
Some things come through only by fasting and prayer. And I want to commend these men for what they're doing. And perhaps maybe we should, as the people, begin to fast and pray for this situation also.
We'll be back in just a moment.
Channel 4 News at 4 is next. Today, the computer-generated major money era has started for the California State Lottery. We'll have 4 reports and everything from the big kickoff ceremony locally to an explanation of how the game is played and what your odds are of winning to this, another computer that'll pick 6 numbers for you if you wanted to. Also, an apparent attempt to bomb the Van Nuys Courthouse complex, the miraculous landing of this plane in a residential area, and a live report from Boston. The Angels and the Red Sox prepare to play next on the Channel 4 News at 4.
The Union Rescue Mission would like to invite you to join them in their efforts to help those who have fallen on hard times. For information, write this address. Thank you.
It's J.W. Robinson's store-wide fall sale with our lowest prices of the season on our most wanted fall fashions for the entire family and on everything for your home. You'll find top designer names, sportswear, weekend wear, the richest fall accessories, bed linens, towels, housewares, area rugs, furniture, and much more. It's all just a part of our store-wide fall sale happening now at J.W. Robinson.
Okay, team, here's the game plan. Go to Vons and pick up your free scratch and win puzzle game card. 80,000 prizes, including Raiders tickets and yearbooks. Scratch and win, then go for the 80 grand prizes. Match your game card puzzle piece with the one at your participating Nissan dealer and win one of 40 Nissan hard body trucks or one of 40 round trips to the Caribbean islands on American Airlines. Where's the instant win? Vons. And where's the grand prize win? Nissan dealers. The giant scratch and win puzzle game at Vons.
Hi. Care for some Wassa crisp bread? Low in calories.
Why, do I look fat?
Wassa is very crunchy.
I have sensitive teeth.
It's all natural.
So is seaweed.
Wassa crisp bread is perfect day or night with any topping.
Do you see any yak cheese?
Some people may never be ready for Wassa crisp bread.
How's this for a chilling thought? A rerun of the Jerry Brown days. Gray Davis, my opponent for state controller, ran the show for Jerry Brown. They deep-sixed our freeways, spread the medfly, chased jobs out of the state, and gave us Rose Bird. And then handed us $1.5 billion deficit. Wasn't that enough? I guarantee you, as your controller, I'll never forget that it's your money and not the government's.
Vote for Senator Bill Campbell for state controller.
The Veterans Fast for Life is at Post Office Box 53271, Temple Heights Station, Washington, D.C. The zip is 20009. How do you feel about what these men are doing? The Veterans Fast for Life, Post Office Box 53271, Temple Heights Station. Boy, I'll tell you this. The government gives itself a lot simpler address, I'll tell you that. Washington, D.C., 20009. You may not ever hear from these people because they'll never be able to write all those.
Can I make a statement? I want to commend these gentlemen for what they're doing. I think they deserve our gratitude. And what? I have very little time to say. Jesus died for the same reason you fellas are willing to die for.
We're willing to die for a woman whose 10-year-old daughter had been beheaded by the Contras, and she told us, when you go back to the United States, tell the people that the Nicaraguans love them. That's the spirit of Nicaragua. We'll die for that.
Jesus died for man's sins. You're willing to die for our country's mistakes. I commend you, sir.
Okay, do you stop fasting when we pull out of this thing, or do you stop fasting when Nicaragua stops fighting? I mean, they're still going to be killing
When
each other.
the people rise up and stop the war.
From fighting, though?
Nicaragua is not fighting with itself. We're fighting terrorists that are killing Nicaragua.
They can't work out their problems while we're ready on the verge of invading them.
Yeah. How do you feel about the way the press has handled these issues?
The press has recopied the censored information or the disinformation from the Reagan administration almost verbatim. Therefore, we've never gotten an independent scrutiny of what's really happening. The press is not in those helicopters. They're not looking at the dead bodies and bringing them back to the United States.
I have
How many
mixed
bodies
feelings
have you
about
seen on television?
I have mixed feelings about this issue, and like a lot of Americans, we feel the same way. And we do have the freedom to vote in this country. We should exercise that freedom to vote.
Isn't there something, just for the sake of our conversation, isn't it unbecoming to have mixed feelings? When does America take a stand?
We have to become more informed.
We got the freest press in the world. Why is it that we are saying we don't have the information?
We should read it more. Become more informed and exercise the right to vote. We still have that freedom here. A lot of people don't vote.
What does this audience feel about our Vice President's knowledge of these illegal activities?
Head of the CIA?
What do I feel? I feel that I've been investigated.
I don't believe that we have the freest press in the world anymore. And I'm really disturbed by the moral decline of the United States, lack of honesty, the lies from the government, disinformation about Libya and Nicaragua. And I think American people really need to open their eyes and take a stand.
Are you there? Is the caller there? Go ahead. Go ahead.
Yes, I'm afraid the American press, I'm calling from Toronto, Canada, I'm afraid the American press is blindfolded on this question. If you read the British press, you know the British conservative observers declared that Nicaragua held a fair election in 1984. The American press didn't report this comment. They didn't even report the British observers were there. The Canadian press, they report the debates in the Nicaraguan parliament where the legal elected conservative opposition calls the government all kinds of names and doesn't get shot or arrested or sent to prison for it. They're free to debate, state their point of view. This is simply not reported in the American media.
Let me get AP reporter Perry in here. That's why you're here. You're under assault here, Mr. Perry. What do you think?
Well, I think much of what we know about Nicaragua we know because of the American press. This is not to say that everything that the American press has done in handling the story has been perfect, but we have informed the American public of an awful lot of what is going on down there.
Well, let me say, this is the basic issue is, does the United States have a right to violate all kinds of laws and treaties to invade the sovereignty of another nation? And that is the basic issue. We do not have the right to invade the sovereignty of another nation.
I'm a former United States Marine. I took part in the invasion of Nicaragua in the 20s. I killed and took part in many atrocities there, and I was nothing but a brute. I changed my mind after I came back and learned what was going on and went into World War II against the Nazis. I've been back to...
Clean toilet bowl fanatics love my 2000 flushes. It has chlorine bleach.
The same chemical used to keep swimming pools clean. It works the same in your toilet bowl. Up to 4 months. 2,000 flushes for clean toilet bowl fanatics.
When you want a hot meal without a big deal. Ham and cheese. Pizza, please.
Barbecue. It's for you.
The crispy hot meal without a big deal.
People are talking about Channel 4 News.
Because it's very different. It's not the same old boring news. Channel 4 News seems to really want to cover everything, every little detail.
John Beard, Kirstie Wilde.
I like their interaction together.
They present a really intelligent news program.
He knows what he's doing.
He's well informed.
Fred Rogan.
He can shout to you.
I love his college games.
Fritz Coleman.
It makes us enjoy even the bad days.
Turn to the one more and more people are watching Channel 4.
Of these best-selling supplements, Centrum has more nutrients, 4 more than Ferragran M, 9 more than Myadin, 13 more than Within, 15 more than One-A-Day Essential. Centrum outnumbers them all. And Centrum has calcium. Some don't. Centrum, more complete than the others, from A to Z. And for children, there's Centrum Junior, more complete than any leading children's chewable vitamin.
Hard water stains are a resting place for bacteria and fungus. You should use Lime Away right away. It's formulated to clean away hard water stains. The bacteria and fungus are carried away, too. Don't let hard water stains build up. Use Lime Away.
And now, from the makers of Lime Away, a new extra-strength toilet bowl cleaner and disinfectant for hard water stains. Look, it starts to clean and disinfect on contact without the hard work. Lime Away toilet bowl cleaner. Extra strength, extra easy cleaning.
Just as everyone is saying they were uninformed, I am uninformed also. But we have so many problems right here. It's hard to look out foreign.
I just want to say that if we can't trust the papers or the government to give us the accurate news, who do we go to?
Services provided and promotional fees paid by the following.
When it comes to thinking of new ways to crash test cars, no one goes farther than Volvo. Volvo, a car you can